Hey guys, it's Holly. So today I wanted to talk you guys through some of the figures that I feel like you should probably have a look at picking up before Spider-Man No Way Home releases in theaters next month. It's just 1 month until this film releases and there is so much speculation and rumors around a bunch of different characters, so I thought I would compile all of the names that have sort of been floating around and show you guys some of the figures that I highly recommend looking into picking up before the film releases, because if they do happen to be in the film, I have no doubt that these figures' prices will inflate drastically. Now keep in mind, none of these figures besides the ones that are in any trailers or any posters are confirmed for the film. The rest of this is just speculation. There aren't any leaks in this video. It is purely just my thoughts, theories, and ideas. The first figure I recommend getting is, of course, the upgraded suit Spider-Man. Now, this one is currently on sale, luckily in a set, and it's a really cheap set at that. I'm really glad that this suit is appearing in the movie. I mean, we've seen it in the trailers. I personally really like this figure. I think it looks great, and it is a classic Spider-Man suit to have. How much he wears it in the film, I have no clue, but I definitely think it's going to be at least in the introduction. Whether or not it lasts, or if that's just a different CGI suit, I'm not entirely sure, but I highly recommend getting the upgraded suit. For very similar reasons, I highly recommend getting the Stark suit, being either the Civil War suit or the Homecoming suit. I feel like both of these will inflate. This one in front of you right now is the Homecoming suit from the Homecoming set. The torso and arms are slightly different on those two versions, but that is the main difference. And while this suit I definitely don't think is appearing in the movie, considering it got blown up with Peter's luggage in Far From Home, I feel like there are going to be many people like myself who just want to go back and get all of Tom Holland's Spider-Man suits after this film, so if you haven't already, probably go look into him. One that's going to be a lot more pricey to get already is the Iron Spider suit. Now again, we've seen this in the trailer, it's in the posters. How much this is actually going to be in the film, I don't know. I mean, I sort of imagine that all of the scenes that show this suit are actually the next suit I'm going to show you, but nevertheless, for the same reasons as the Stark suit, I imagine people are going to go and want this. Now, I bought this figure for that reason. I was like, after No Way Home comes out, chances are this one is going to go up, and I actually ended up buying that entire Sanctum set, and I'm really glad that I did. After seeing the trailer, I got incredibly lucky with that. So I would either look at maybe getting that set if you can find a good deal. I mean, again, that is really expensive, but so is this figure. So if you're after that set, maybe it's worth looking into buying the whole thing rather than just getting the figure on its own off Bricklink. Next up is the brand new integrated suit. Now this one is from the Spider-Man Sanctum Workshop set, which again is currently on shelves. I just highly recommend getting any of those Spider-Man sets if you can find them. I haven't seen this set often in stores, but when I do, there's only a couple of copies, so I would highly recommend picking that up before the movie comes out. How much this suit's gonna be in it, I'm not sure, but again, I feel like it's probably just a good idea to get all of Tom Holland's suits now rather than waiting. And besides the Civil War minifigure, the last Tom Holland suit that we have is the black and gold suit. And again, we've seen this one in the trailers, and there are currently some rumors. I don't really want to call them leaks because I feel like we just absolutely do not know. But there are some rumors about the story and origin of this suit, which I won't say in this video just to avoid spoilers, but it sounds really interesting. And I don't personally love the suit, but I feel like it'll be interesting to see if that stuff actually happens in the movie. Same deal with Zombie Hunter Spider-Man. I feel like it's a pretty good pickup, especially since this suit was actually inspired based off the Stark suit in the movies, even though it was in What If. But I feel like the big win for this figure is definitely the cape. If you've got Doctor Strange and you bought that Sanctum set, you can swap it out, but also just the Peter Parker face in general. I feel like the scared expression is the really big winner here. I just think it's perfect for just sort of capturing all of the moments that I feel like Peter is going to have in this film. And the last of the Spider-Man figures, and probably the most important one to get, is definitely the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man figure from either 2002 or 2004. Now for me personally, I picked up the 2004 one. I just got a used one because this figure already is quite expensive. He's quite old. There's a tiny bit of printing that's been scratched off on the head, but honestly, it wasn't something that I particularly minded. Then again, I might go and have a look on Bricklink just because I'm worried about how much this figure will inflate plate if Tobey Maguire does happen to be in it. I mean, at this stage, we have no clue, but I think just based off speculation, this figure's price has already started to creep up. And if he does turn out to be in the movie, this guy is going to inflate drastically. My gut feeling is telling me it's going to be bad. And the reason particularly that is just because of how old this figure is. It's from 2004. It's a lot less common than a lot of these figures. And I feel like if you've been thinking about it, or you are highly convinced that Tobey will in the film, even if you're not convinced and you just really like the figure, now is the time to buy. I would not wait a second longer, especially given that the film comes out in a month. Just don't risk it. Go and get Tobey's Spider-Man. On the opposite end, one that's probably not as important is actually J. Jonah Jameson. Now, we've seen him in the end credit scene from Far From Home. We've seen him in the trailers. We know that he's going to be here, and probably a lot of you guys may already have the Bugle, so this one is a really easy one. You've already got him. Tick it off your list, or maybe you've even got the older Bugles set. But if you haven't, I feel like it's a really good addition. I mean, I don't know how much he's going to be in the film, if anything, but he's a pretty neat figure and a massive Spider-Man icon character. So I really feel like it could be worth picking him up, but he's probably going to be a lot lower on your priority list. In a similar boat, we have Ned and MJ. MJ, I feel like more so is a lot less sort of a priority than Ned. I mean, Ned is just me basically going off comic book information and pure speculation, but I feel like both of these characters are worth picking up. I mean, Ned's definitely going to be a lot harder to get a hold of since he was only in the Far From Home minifigure pack, whereas MJ is still in the Sanctum Workshop set. Like I said, just go and buy those Spider-Man sets if you've been thinking about it. I highly recommend. But depending on if they go the route that I think they're going to go with Ned, he could creep up a tiny bit, but not as much as another figure that I will show you guys later on. Another figure I would highly suggest picking up is the Vulture. Now, we don't know if the Vulture will be in this film, but currently he is in prison, so it's not like he's dead. It's not like we've seen any of that. There is a high chance that he could return. I mean, especially since he is in the Morbius trailer, though currently we don't know what universe that film is set in, but at least we know that Adrian Toomes and Michael Keaton's Vulture is from the Homecoming film. Like, it is there. I think it could be worth getting him, but at the end of the day, we have no clue if he's going to be returning for this one. Same deal with Mysterio. However, it is assumed that he is dead. Personally, I have a theory that Mysterio could still be alive somewhere, so I would highly recommend picking up this figure. But luckily, both of those villains are currently available in the Spider-Man set, so it's pretty easy, although you may have this one left over from the Far From Home sets as is, and in that case, you probably don't need this newer version. But I feel like Mysterio will be a really big and important character no matter what, just because of how much he drives the plot in this film. Not very essential, but I thought I would throw them in here anyway. Another two figures are probably Wong and Doctor Strange, especially maybe the older version of Wong if you haven't picked it up already. These are both, again, from that Sanctum Workshop set, so you should be all good. However, I did swap out Doctor Strange's cape. He does have this more rubberized version in that set. Doctor Strange, I think, is definitely going to be a lot more important to this film. Wong just sort of seems like a cameo, but it could be worth picking these up if you haven't already. But I feel like that's more of a problem for Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness next year instead. Now, moving on to the high priority characters, I would highly recommend getting a Dr. Octopus. I mean, ideally, if you have had your eye on the 2004 one from Spider-Man 2, that one definitely prioritize. He's already looking very, very expensive. For me personally, I don't mind too much not having that figure just because I did not like the hairpiece on this one. And the one from the Bugle, having that sort of PS4 Spider-Man game design, I personally really like, and I think it works pretty well. I mean, his face and his hair still work pretty good. I mean, you could still modify it if you really wanted to make it look a bit more accurate, but definitely if you have not gotten a Dr. Octopus, get him now. And for the exact same reasons, I would recommend getting a Green Goblin. Now, the Green Goblin has actually showed up in the Spider-Man No Way Home posters. Now, I personally, again, don't have the Willem Dafoe one from the original Spider-Man sets, and that one is crazy expensive. It's almost reaching 100 Australian dollars. But luckily, I've got these two comic versions. This one is from the Ultimate Bridge Battle set that he is currently standing on, and this one is from the Daily Bugle. Personally, I much prefer the one from the Ultimate Bridge Battle. I find it's a lot more comic book accurate, but at the same time, I feel like the costume of the newer one could be a bit more similar to maybe something we'd see in the movie. I don't know. From the looks of things in the poster, it looks like that classic green metal suit. So if you have been eyeing that one up, snatch that up immediately. These older figures are going to be the most expensive and the most inflated ones. You just gotta act now. One that is a bit less of a priority, I feel like, is Scorpion. I mean, we got teased Scorpion at the end of the Homecoming in the end credits scene, but there hasn't been too much word about him yet, so I feel like you don't necessarily need to rush. But I mean, if you're like me and you've been looking at that bridge set, I feel like it's a really good time to get it, considering how many scenes we've seen of the bridge battle, not to mention just the minifigure selection is amazing. But maybe look into Scorpion. However, again, I feel like he's a lower priority. Next up is Electro, and specifically the Amazing Spider-Man 2 polybag version. I mean, you could go for the comic version, even though it's blue and still technically comic inaccurate, but there are very, very heavy theories about Jamie Foxx. I mean, apparently he's been confirmed, but I'm not 100% sure, but I know that I definitely jumped on this one before the movie came out. I didn't want to risk it. I definitely think it is worth getting him, even though, again, his outfit's probably going to be very different, and we know that they're going to change the lighting and it's not going to be blue. Another very, very highly rumored character is Daredevil, or Matt Murdock, more specifically than Daredevil. And I mean, if you've got the Bugle, you've already got this figure. At least the set's currently on shelves, even though he is exclusive to that set, which does make him quite expensive on the aftermarket. While I don't think we're going to see Daredevil in costume in the film, I really think there is a high chance of Matt Murdock showing up. I mean, despite seeing that IMAX footage, I definitely do not believe that that is just another actor. I'm pretty convinced that it's Charlie Cox, but I mean, I could be let down in the actual theater, but nevertheless, I think Daredevil is a really good one to have a look at if you're interested. Now, I know this one's a real stretch, and this is just really a personal theory for mine, but I think it could be worth looking into Miles Morales. I mean, with these films, there always needs to be some sort of wow moment, and I feel like with all of the rumors flying around, there's not a lot that really seems like a big wow at the moment, besides the idea of maybe introducing Miles Morales. I mean, he's been mentioned briefly, sort of indirectly in Homecoming, so I wouldn't be surprised if they sort of lean down and maybe hint at him or introduce him. I mean, it's a really big shot in the dark. Again, this is probably at the very bottom of your priority list. I mean, if you're just looking at the Bugle, then I wouldn't even bother getting this figure since he's included in it. Or maybe if you've got their old Mars Morales hanging around, or you find it on clearance, maybe it's a good idea to snatch him up. I mean, he's a cool figure either way, but I don't think his value will particularly shoot up, nor am I really convinced that he's going to be in the film, but there is a possibility. Next up is Hobgoblin, and again, this is just a really big theory. I mean, Ned Leeds in the comics does become the Hobgoblin, and there have been some sort of theories in regards to just John Watts, the director, usually liking to tease villains and characters and events in the films using number plates, and it is sort of hinted at in the trailer, but we don't know at the end of the day. I mean, I feel like, again, like seeing Miles Morales, Ned becoming the Hobgoblin will be a really big wow moment. There's a ton of theory videos on YouTube about it, and this figure only came in one set, so I feel like if you are one of those people like myself who is just not taking any chances, I feel like now is a good time. Do I think his outfit will look much like this? Probably not, and I think a lot of the value for this figure will come down to, well, firstly, if he's in the film, but secondly, will his outfit look anything like this? I mean, if it's completely different, I don't think that this figure will go up all that much, but if it looks somewhat similar, or at least has a similar color scheme, it maybe could. I mean, for me at least, this figure can be quite expensive already, so luckily I was able to grab a used version and have it in my collection. Now, a massive spoiler warning: if you have not seen Venom Let There Be Carnage, please skip ahead to this following timestamp, as this is a massive spoiler for this movie. If you do not care, continue watching. You have been warned. 3, 2, 1. You've probably guessed it, but the next one is Venom. Now, just going based off that end credit scene, I really feel like Venom and Tom Hardy could have a guest appearance or a cameo. I mean, Venom, again, is a pretty common figure. I don't think this one's gonna shoot up all that much, but if you've been looking to get him, I would highly recommend getting him as sort of like No Way Home. I mean, personally, at least when I walk out of the theater, if I don't have a figure, I always go hunting for them. So, I mean, you could save yourself some time, get everything pre and advanced with Venom, but he's not super rare, so I don't think his value will shoot up all too high. So those are all of the minifigures I highly recommend getting. I mean, I feel like pretty much any Spider-Man minifigure is probably a very good option. There are so many different characters and villains, and I feel like, especially if you've got the Daily Bugle set, I mean, all of these figures go really nicely with that one. But there are definitely some that I feel like are worth picking up more so than others. So best of luck to everyone looking for these figures. I really hope you guys can get a good deal, and I feel like it is definitely a good time to buy these while all we have is trailers and there is no movie, because I feel like especially a week after that film gets out, it's going to be chaos. But let me know what figures you have been eyeing up or purchasing in anticipation for this film down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And until next time, guys, I'll see you later.